Hi girls, welcome to classification. So we're going to run this unit a little bit differently. Instead of listening to us chat to you about all the stuff that you're going to learn or that you have to learn or the theory, we're going to pre-record, or I'm going to pre-record a bunch of videos for you to watch, which means that you can stop, you can pause, you can do whatever you want to get the information in. So if you want to take notes while we do this, you can. If you just want to listen and enjoy it, you can do that too. We have, as part of this unit, a few kind of touch points, and we'll go through these in your class Zooms to make sure that you understand what you have to do. So let's get started. The new unit is called classification and also ecosystem. So we're bringing in two parts of my favorite part of science, which is biology. So the question that I've got here to ask you is, how and why do we classify living things? So what's coming up? What does that mean? We're going to see what is classification. We're going to see how do we classify different objects. What's the classification of living things? Okay, so three different things. Classification in general. What does it mean to classify objects? And then we're going to classify living things. So what is classification? Now remember, if I'm going too fast, you get the pause button. Just to pause, rewind, you can watch me again because I know you want to. But let's have a look at what is classification. Classification is just like this guy sitting here in a giant ball pit of a classroom. I would love to do this. I'm just not sure I can be bothered cleaning it up. So he's sitting there on his computer working away, but you can see that things have been grouped. So that's what classification is. You've got the yellow balls as one group, you've got the blue balls as another group, the blue balls as another group, and then the red balls, here we are, the red balls here that are going to be the third group. Then you've got other bits that might not fit into those groups. So what I want you to do is I want you to have a pause and have a think. What kind of examples of classification can you think of? Now, it doesn't have to be a science example. So I want you to pause and think about what kind of examples of classification you think of. I really hope you paused. And welcome back. So now that you've had a pause and that you've thought through different methods of classification, I'm going to show you some everyday examples. So one of the biggest ones and one of the only places we can go at the moment is the supermarket. How do they classify in a supermarket? By aisles, yes? So each aisle up the top has got that really big list of all the items or types of items you can find in that aisle. That is a form of classification. You might know that at the front of the supermarket when you walk in, well, the one that I walk in, has always got the fruit and vegetables. Yes, then you have all of your non-perishable goods in the middle, so your pasta, your flour, your chips, your lollies, then you've got all your hair products. All of those are a different classification group. We also have a library, a picture of a library here. So libraries classify books into different genres. You can have non-fiction, you can have fiction, you can have different types of fiction, and then you can keep going down throughout that classification pathway to get to a really specific little group. We've also got music. So there's a picture of iTunes on there, so you can see that you can classify music into different genres. And even within pop as a genre versus metal music versus rock music, you can have little subgenres. You can talk about K-pop. You can talk about 90s pop. You can talk about 80s pop. So all of these different groupings that we make, that is us classifying things in order to make them a bit simpler, or maybe even find things that we want to as well, that might be similar to our likes already. The last picture we have here, just down the bottom, is a film classification. So this one's pretty important. The government says that all films must have a classification before they're released so that we're aware of what kind of age group they might be familiar or suitable for. Okay, so this is a really important skill, although we're going to be learning it under the umbrella of biology, which is our science of living things. It's a really important skill for all the sciences. So chemists classify different substances, so chemical substances. Geologists classify rocks, and you've already done some classification of rocks. So can you think, what were those groups in the classification of rocks? We had igneous rocks, sedimentary rocks, metamorphic rocks. And how did we separate them into those different categories? Astronomers, like we've already done like we've done before, classify celestial bodies. So whether or not something is a star or a planet or a comet or a meteor or an asteroid, that is a form of classification. Now the last one, and this is what we're about to become what we call a taxonomist. So a taxonomist's job is to classify animals as well as plants, yes, as well as other things like bacteria and fungi and anything that's a living thing. That's what a taxonomist wants to classify. So when we learn classification in science, it applies to all the different sciences. However, this time we're going to be focusing on classifying animals. So to begin with, I'm going to introduce this one word, and this is a word that you might want to pause and you might want to write down some notes about. This word is called an organism. So think about, what do you think an organism might be, and then let's have a look at our definition here. So an organism is a general word for any living thing. If you want to be more specific though, we say that it's anything that is made up of at least one cell. Yes, and next year you will dive deep into a cell and understand, but the cells are the things that make us up. We've got billions of cells. They also make up bacteria. Yeah, bacteria have one cell. A blue whale has millions of cells. So anything that has cells, that's what we classify as an organism. But why do we want to classify organisms? So biologists, like me, like you, use classification to organize living things into groups so that the organism can be easier to study. And also, we get to identify a whole bunch of patterns, in nature. We can identify patterns in nature. We can say, okay, I'm going to classify me, a human, as a mammal. Now, what other features do I have in common with other mammals? And it allows us to predict what other behaviors and what other features organisms might have if we classify them into particular groups. So the first task that you're going to be doing is about classification keys. So a classification key is when you use a visual tool to help you separate things out into their little groups. So we've got two types of keys. You've got this visual key on, here we go, there we go. They're both on this side of the PowerPoint for you, but you've got the blue one with all the little branches. That's what we call a dichotomous key. And then you've got the one next to it that's a table. Yeah, so all of the one that has 1, no feathers covering body, 2, hair all over body. Yes, that's what we call a tabular key. And the reason it's called tabular is because it's in a table. Now, the good thing about this is that each choice has got a yes or a no answer. So let's just have a look here at this bit. Here we talk about a redback family, and this is Dr. Redback's family. They're both the same key, but two different ways of doing it. So you can have the redback family, you go, do they have no feathers covering body, or do they have feathers covering the body? And we'll go, okay, it has feathers covering the body. Then we go down here and we go, okay, it's flying animals, it must be Charlie. All right, let's go up here and see. There you go. So we've got an organism that has no feathers. Does it have hair all over the body or hair covering parts? And we'll just say hair covering parts. Is it unable to walk or able to walk? Yeah, it's able to walk, so we come down here. Is it male or female? We'll go male. If after the male, is it got no facial hair or facial hair? Yes, it's got facial hair. Oh, it must be Richard. Okay, you can do the same thing with this one here. So if you go no feathers covering body or feathers covering body. So let's go no feathers covering body, and it says go to 2. So then I come down to question number 2. Hair all over body or hair covering parts of body? We'll say hair covering parts of body. go to 4. Come down to number 4. Is it unable to walk or able to walk? If we go able to walk, we go to number 6. Can you see what I'm doing? I'm going through each time. I have 2 choices. Di for dichotomous. Di means 2 and cotomous means to cut. So this is a way of us cutting a group into 2. And the very last thing that we're going to go through are the characteristics of strong keys. So by strong keys, I mean really good ones that work. So a strong key is one in which the choices are easily observed. Everyone knows what they mean and they don't change with time. So, for example, at the beginning of the year, my hair was blonde. I also didn't have a fringe. If you were trying to sort out teachers into a key, using hair colour might not be a great choice to make because I can already changed it. So it's changed over time. Although it's something that you can easily observe and people know what my hair colour means, it changed with time. So it's not a great feature for me to use. However, if you used the fact that I am 5'2" tall, yes, or I am less than 5'5" or more than 5'5", that I can't change. As an adult, that's how tall I am. It's easily observable, everyone knows what it means, and it didn't change with time. So that's a good characteristic to use in our keys. If you don't use a characteristic that's observable, like height, size, colour of fur, if you're not dyeing it, then people might come up with different answers. And that's not what we want. We want everyone to be able to use a key to be able to come up with the same answers. So you've got to be careful with things like size, colour and shape because they change as an organism grows or develops. Structural features make a much stronger key that could be used at any time regardless of how old you are. If you've got a whole bunch of animals in the room, you might say, do they walk on 2 legs or 1 leg? That's what I would, 2 legs or 1 leg, 2 legs or 4 legs. That's what I would call a structural feature. So structural features make really good, strong keys. Things that can be changed like hair colour, not a great feature to use in your keys. And so that brings us to the end of the theory on classification and dichotomous keys.